Hello everyone, this is my first video for helping people learn EVE Online. So, starting out, I am starting with one of my alts. It's a pretty empty character, don't really have much on here, and I kind of acts like as if I'm a new player. So, true, I do have about 2 million skill points invested into this character, but I will be using equipment that only new players will be able to use. So, and also I'm only starting off with the 40,000 ISK that you normally start off with a new player. So, not too much, and I'm not going to use any other assets I have on this character. So, to begin with, when you first start the game, you're going to be most likely docked in a station. So stations in EVE are pretty vital. You spend a decent amount of time there, depending on your career path. Like, people of markets pretty much just sit in stations all day and play the market like a normal investor would in the real world. Although other people like me prefer to go out and actually fight other people, so you spend very little time in the station. But it is very good to know what you can use in the station to assist you. So every station has multiple services that it can supply. So I'm in the noob system of Todaki. This is actually the very first system I spawned in when I very started EVE on my main account. And this is the station there. So on this right panel you can see all the station services that you have. Not every station has the same services, some have a lot more and some have very few. So let's see, this one has a loyalty point store, which that is used for people that are PvEers. Basically, they go out on missions for agents, and they gain loyalty points, and they can use these in the store to purchase special items. So like here you can buy much better guns, like here's the Caldari Navy 200mm railgun, much more powerful than a standard tier 1 railgun. And to get it, you have to pay 24,000 loyalty points, plus 9,600,000 ISK, on top of providing them with some parts. So it looks here that the requirements to get that one is some tags that you collect from killing NPCs that are very specific, and the Tech 1 version of the railgun. So a lot of people actually make their living off getting these loyalty points, manufacturing these items, and then selling them on the market, especially things like ammo, which are pretty easy to make. You just have to get, in this case, 5,000 antimatter charges, which are pretty cheap to make, a little bit of loyalty points, a little bit of ISK, and you can get some faction ammo. Next one, ship insurances. So right now I have nothing worth insuring because all I have right now is my hangar is the standard newbie ship that you get. That would be this guy right here. And every faction has their own noob ship. For the Caldari, it is the Ibis. Let's get this guy. And there it is. So it's a pretty weak ship, but allows you to definitely do a bunch of things starting off as a new player, such as mining, hauling, basic combat. So I'll be using this for a little bit for the tutorial. And the good thing is it's free. You can always get one by docking in the station in just your pod, and you'll automatically begin the free one. And since this is a free ship, you cannot insure it, because there's nothing worth insuring. And insurance basically provides you with a little bit of ISK in case you lose your ship. So, like on my PvP ships, I generally insure them because most of the time I will eventually lose them and I can get some of the value back. Like for example, I have a Thorax, it's a Galenti cruiser I like to PvP with, and the ship in total costs me about 30 to 40 million ISK. Now, the prices for the insurance is based off of the cost of the hull, which for one of those ships is, actually we can check, I believe it is around 10 mil. Yeah, so it's about 9 mil to about 15 mil depending on where you get it. And for that ship I can purchase about $2 million platinum contracts. You always want to go to platinum, the highest contract you can. And in the case of my destruction of my ship, I would have gotten about 7 million back from it for that ship. So it helps to reduce the buffer in your ship. Now, for PvE ships, it's kind of up to you, because you don't usually lose ships against most NPCs. It's kind of hard to do, but it's kind of up to you if you want to risk it. Other station services, factional warfare, I'm going to include that in another video, but essentially the Amar and Caldari are allied against each other against the Galente and the Minmatar. And you can go into faction warfare, which is these two groups fighting each other. So groups of players organize fleets with each other, and they go out and try to capture various zones to gain loyalty points and IS. And also for pretty fun fights, you can get into some solo fights, small game fights, so that's pretty fun. Bounty Office. Bounties are pretty useless in EVE Online. Like, my main's got a few million bounties, but it's just people kind of just throw it out there. It's kind of a broken mechanic, so you can see this guy has a 200 trillion ISK bounty, but I mean, the payout system is kind of bad on it, so I'm not really going to go too much into there. Then you have industry in your stations. So not all stations have all forms of industries, but the basics are manufacturing, where you can actually build modules, ammo, ships, pretty much anything in the game with a blueprint. Or you can do various forms of researching your blueprints. Like there's some that you can research it to cut down on the amount of materials you need to use to make items, or the time for building the item. And then for manufacturing tier 2 modules, which are much more expensive and more powerful, you have to do a process called invention. So to do invention, you must take a blueprint original, which are quite expensive sometimes. You can buy them on the market. They're seeded by the game, and one of the few items that are seeded. And you can make copies of it. Now, copies are useful. You can give them to like other players. They don't want to have access to your original. That's worth a lot. But one of the other uses is inventing the copy. So with invention, you can invent a copy, and you can add other materials, which I'll go through later on my industry video, and you have a percent chance of producing a tier 2 blueprint copy, and from there you can build T2 modules. So, and that is some of the basics on industry. Let's see. Ship fitting is another one. So this is the interface, and you can also access it from the left-hand panel under ship fitting, and it basically allows you to install modules on all of your ships. And I'm going to go through this much more detail, but also besides allowing you to install modules, it also gives you readouts of your status on your ships. So like your defense capabilities, your offensive capabilities, and if your capacitor is going to be drained fully or not. So it's very useful, and you spend a lot of time in here or other programs mimicking this to get optimum fits for your ships. Then you also have the regional market, accessible from here and on the left. So basically, this is how you buy nearly all items in the game. Go into your regional market, and it's broken up in all these different categories. Most common ones you'd use ship equipment, ship modifications, and ships. So if I just do a pull out of this, go ships, and it breaks down into all forms of all classes of ships. Like here I'll go into frigates, and T1 frigates are the standard, and you have advanced, which are the tier 2 frigates, and you also have some ships that are faction. So you can see one here. Let me change the setting. Region. Okay. So there's also faction frigates, which is basically combinations of various factions into very powerful ships. So, and under that breakdown, you break it down to all of the various factions. You got Mar, Caldari, Galente, Minmatar, and Or. So, further go into, I'm going to go into Caldari, and you can break down to all various ships. Now on the right here gives you a quick overview of what the ship is, and its capabilities, and the base region price. So you can use that for a quick reference. If you want to go into more information, like the Merlin's one of my personal favorites, you can click this info button, and it gives you the traits, any bonuses to the specific hull, kind of like a lore description. It also tells you a little bit about how it could be used. Attributes is one of the most important tabs, as it tells you everything about the ship. Stats, so like hit points, cargo capacities, armor resists, targeting range, maximum velocity, all that good stuff. And also got another tab here, it gives you fitting restrictions like how much power or CPU you have available or how many turret slots you can fit. Over here in requirements, it tells you which skills you need, and when you start off with a new player, you start off with about 400,000 skill points, which is actually a decent amount. A long time ago when I started, noobs only started off with 40,000. So it definitely get you into the game much easier nowadays. So you can see this one only needs a skill Spaceship Command level 1 and Caldari Frigate level 1. After Caldari, you should automatically have both of those when you start. If you're another race, you'll have their racial Frigate level 1. So I can check marks indicate that I can fly these ships. So I can use this one. Mastery is mainly used for people that want to see like how well they can fly a ship in the game. Now, in-game skills and out-of-game skills are completely different in my opinion, and most people's opinion out-of-game skills would always beat out in-game skills, but this does give you a good idea of how you can maximize the use of the ship. Now, for this character, I don't have that many skills trained up, so I haven't even met what they classify as a level 1 certification. My main, I probably got level 4, possibly level 5, because I've heavily trained up those lines of ships, because I prefer smaller ships for PvP. Now, in here they also have variations. So you can see you have the T1 Merlin hull, which is what we've been looking at. And they also have the Tier 2 versions of Salt Frigates, the Harpy and the Hawk. So those are very powerful frigates, and they're actually very good to use. I haven't really used too many assault frigates, but I do plan on doing that. And then you also have faction frigates, so like the Worm here. You can see it has pretty good bonuses. Has 300% bonus to light combat drone damage and hit points, and missile thermal damage bonuses. And the Worms are very deadly. They're very powerful if blown right, and they're pretty fun. So back to the market window. Let's say I want to buy a Merlin. So I can just click on here, and it shows you, opens up the market, sellers and buyers. So most of your time will be spent in the sellers when you want to buy an item. Although if you have resources you want to sell, you can either sell to a buyer or you can create your own sell order. A lot of people choose to have their own sell orders because they make more money, but I'm not too patient, so I usually sell to buyers. So you can filter these by multiple settings, like jumps is one of the most common ones I do, so you can see if you filter this. The closest one is a system 1 jump away, so it's next door. And the cheapest one they have on there is about 2 million ISK. And they have a quantity of 13. Now I can also filter this by price if I want the lowest, and I can see that it's the lowest price if I wanted to pay would be 9 jumps away for 340,000 ISK. Now for a frigate, you're going to range between about the 200,000 and 500,000 ISK range, so pretty cheap to lose, pretty good at PvP if you fly them right, so those are pretty good. Okay, moving on. You also have the reprocessing plants. Basically, you can take modules and reprocess them back into their minerals. Although this used to be quite profitable for mission runners that would loot all the NPC wrecks afterwards, they nerfed the reprocessing rate for modules. So it can still be valuable, especially for beginners when they don't have very much, but once you get later on to the game, it becomes less and less profitable. Also, this is how you would reprocess things like ore, which if you're a miner, you'd be reprocessing lots of if you have good skills. But you'd have to check because sometimes if your skills are too low for reprocessing, it is more profitable just to sell the ore. Although there are exceptions to this, like when I started off the game, I trained up some basic refining skills so I didn't lose too much. But when I refined it, I would still lose some value. But to me, that value is worth it because it's much easier to haul after that. Minerals are quite small when you reprocess them. Ore is pretty bulky, so if you count in all the trips I would take to go into the trade hub, the little slight loss in ISK was worth it for me. Then you have your repair shop. Basically, your repair shop is used for repairing damaged ships and damaged modules, damaged drones, everything. So EvE here that I have, it's got no damage, but if it did, you would click on the ship you want to repair or module and you would just say repair item, and it says here I have nothing to repair. So repair costs charge you a small amount of ISK. It's not very expensive anymore. It used to be quite expensive, but you'd have just players buying like armor repairs or structural repairs and just undocking and just sitting there for a little bit pairing. So they made the cost many times cheaper. So it actually is a much better system because it kind of gets annoying just sitting outside because structural reps are very slow. And your clone bay. So basically you are immortal in this game. But when your ship dies, you eject into your pod, and if your pod dies, your clone dies, and you are automatically recloned in a station. Now, you can choose whichever station you want to reclone in, provided that station has a clone bay. Many stations don't, but this one does. So if I wanted to, I could change my station from Violade, which is what my clone is currently stationed at. So I could change it to this station, and whenever I die, I would respawn in the Tsubaki station instead of Violade. Now, if I wanted to, provided you're not in the station your medical clone is installed on, you could self-destruct, which is a nice button you could use. That way, so if you want to just pod yourself all the way back to Violade and transport yourself fast, that's a good option if you don't have any implants installed. Because if the only other option for that is undocking and initiating a self-destruct, which takes like 2 minutes, and it's boring sitting there. And another type of clone in the game are jump clones. So they've recently changed the jump clone mechanic. Before, you needed faction standings with a faction, and you would purchase jump clones from them. But now you just have to have the right skills, and you can just purchase it outright from any NPC that has a clone bay installed in the station. So jump clone is basically you can have multiple selves of you around the galaxy, and then at a maximum, once every 24 hours, you can jump to another clone. And there's some skills that can reduce that by up to 5 hours, so that way you can get it down to about 19 hours between jump times. So this is very useful. Like on my main, I have my main clone I use stationed out in Syndicate for having fun PvPing. Then I have a second jump clone installed in Jita with a good set of training implants, so I can train faster, skills faster when I take like a day or two break from the game. I have a third jump clone stationed in Faction Warfare, that way so I can go out and have some more solo fights or just kind of frigate fights, because frigates and Null don't do too well. I mean, you can do them, I just don't really prefer that. I prefer slightly bigger ships, like cruiser sized. So I have one out there. So basically, once every, for me, 20 hours, because of my skills, I can jump between those, that way so I can have a range of activities. Like also, before, I used to have one stationed in a system of agents, so I could run NPC missions and grind some money. I got rid of that one a long time ago, so I don't use it. Then finally, in this one, there's character customization, where you can basically go into customization mode and modify your avatar that you created at the very beginning when you first started. So this is how you would re-enter the character creation mode. And I'm pretty sure you know a decent amount about that if you already got to this part. So I'm just going to go back. Okay, so that's pretty much most of the station modules, and there's just a few things I'm going to go over, the overviews and a setting or two. So this is your general station overview. On the right here, under the guest tab, it shows all the players stocked in the station, which is very useful for intel, especially when you're in combat. It shows you which agents are in this station, and it shows there are none. And there's also an agent finder, so you can actually locate and see where other NPC agents are that you can run missions out of. So you can locate this down to agent level, so there's like a level 1 security mission agent, one jump next door, so I'll probably use him for my tutorial on missioning. And he's under the Caldari Navy. Okay, I'm gonna go out here. Then there's also offices here. This is for if you have a corporation that wants to rent out an office space, they can rent it here. So you can see that 666 Corporation has their corporate office here, and this is the easy way to apply join, but other than that, it's really meant for like corp CEOs to deal with. And on the bottom left here, you have your chat windows. This is most of my windows, by the way, are in their pretty much default position. There's a few I have moved around, but you can move these windows, just click and drag anywhere. You can leave them there permanently. It's just most of mine I just kind of left in default positions. So you have your chat windows. You have local, which shows all the people in your system. So this right here shows how many Capsuleers are in the system, which are EvE players. And this one shows how many Dust 514 people are playing in your system too. So Dust 514, if you do not know, is a PS3 game. It's a first-person shooter that's tied in with the EvE universe with faction warfare. However, they are going to be shutting down the servers either soon or they recently did, so that's not very functional anymore. So you can also scroll through this list of people here, and let's say I'm going to click on myself, Altega Maldoran, and it shows you character info about the person. This is very useful if you're in combat to find people and look up a little bit about themselves. I mean, there's very easy ways to hide information, but you can kind of get a general idea of the player. So here it shows profile pic, my name, and it shows the corporation I'm in, Last Garrison, with its ticker, and it shows I've been with the corp for 6 months, 25 days. And right here it shows I have no bounty that players have placed on me, and my corp standing is 0 because I am kind of neutral to the corp. We have no reason to really set standings, so that's kind of useless. Then it shows my security status. In EvE, you have multiple security statuses. You have your generic one, which is used for when you combat another player illegally. That will drop. So I believe I PvP'd once or twice with this character, so I got a little bit of a drop, so on negative 0.1. You start off at 0, but you don't really have to worry about your security status until it gets down to negative 5. Then once it gets down to negative 5, the faction police will shoot you on sight in high sec. So that is why my main does not really go into high sec, because he is negative 8, I believe. So I can run around quickly in small ships, but I just use mainly this character for hauling. Now, because it's basically the lore description of your character, and if you had a bio, which I do not on this character, there'd be another tab for it where you can personally write your own information. Some people have a pretty fun time doing that. As my standings rating with various people, I don't really have any contacts, so it's just neutral with my corp. Any decorations that your corp would issue you, some role-playing corps really get heavily into that. Then my employment history shows all my records of all the corps I have been in. So you can see whenever, all the time in EvE, you are in some sort of corp. Like right now, I'm in Last Garrison, it is a player corp. But if you're not in a player corp, you're automatically thrown into a default NPC corp with a bunch of other players. So you can see when I first started off this character, I was in the NPC State War Academy corp. So those can be useful. I mean, they're filled with a lot of trolls usually, but you can also get some good information out of them as a new player. So I would ask around. You can see my second one was the Warhammer. That was one I created for myself. I tried starting a corp, didn't work out too well, but yeah. And then, as you can see, got kind of a decent history, dropped out of that one, brief moments to an NPC, and then went to a Null Corp, and so on. So you can kind of keep track of other players and see what their history is for when recruiting them. And then you can also write personal notes for yourself on other characters, like if I'm stalking someone in the system, I may write a quick note on what I saw them flying for future references. Okay, there's other tabs here. There'll always be a corp tab where you can look at. There's no one here at the moment. This is for a player corp, although your NPC corp should have around 200 people in it online or so. I have seen, so you can get that from them, and chat with them. So just type in chat bar. And I have the help channel open quite often because I like to provide my support, but the help channel is pretty good. When you start off a fresh account, you'll have a new player help channel. That one is specifically only for game ISDs, which are essentially players that volunteer time to CCP to help them with customer support, and they help out players. And they are restricted to only new players within the first 2 weeks, so you don't have other players trying to troll in or anything like that. And it's heavily monitored by the ISDs. But once you run out of time, then you'll be automatically kicked from that channel and you can never enter again. But there is a generic help channel, which you can go up here on the left under channels. And you can search for channels. There's some default ones like here that they have, like help, and you can say join or leave. This is the English help. Then there's some other ones like EvE Uni. Oh, that's new. It looks like they actually made EvE Uni's help channel official for CCP, so they got that. And so players can create their own chat channels, like most corps for recruiting have their own chat channels, or they can just kind of bring you into the room and you can talk. And you can search any channel you want here. Like I have some player channels over here, like I have Spectre Fleet. You can join. They're pretty cool MPSI fleet. So basically, just take random people. Just say we're having an event. People just go to the system, join up, and they just go out for a fight and shoot anything that moves, and then everyone splits their own ways afterwards. So yeah, I generally chat on the help chat open. Okay, then bottom right here, this little thing is notifications. Tells you a little bit things to happen, like new email notifications to pop up here, insurance notifications, etc. So it's kind of pretty generic. So I'm going to go over this left toolbar. So on the very bottom left here, it shows EvE time. I believe this is Icelandic time, although I may be wrong because while the company is stationed in Iceland, the servers are actually based in England. So I'm pretty sure that's Icelandic time though. So you can click on here, opens up your calendar for yourself. Corporations can post events in here, or you can create events and post them and make them shareable to other people. So it's pretty good for keeping track of stuff. And there's also notifications that also come up here, like sometimes CCP has events, and they'll post on your calendar, at least you can see them and try to join in on the fun. Then this just pulls out extra icons that don't fit in here depending on how big you have it. There's a fleet, basically you use that for when you're in fleets with other players. You can use this to micromanage people, so not too useful for a new player. Project Discovery is a new added feature that CCP added. I haven't done anything with it, but essentially you're able to analyze photos of real cells and basically indicates various positions of various organelles within the cell for actual real science, and then they'll ship these off to real scientists. They'll be able to take just a faster look at it, make sure everything looks right, and then they'll be able to use it for their research. In return, you get loyalty points like we talked about earlier from Sisters of EvE, so you can use that for making a kiss. There's also a help feature under here, so you can either directly join the help channel from here, or go to the CCP Help Center, or show career agents, which are pretty good. Career agents, you should check out some of those as a new player. They help you learn various aspects of the game, and they can give you some pretty good rewards. Under here too, there is also the report bug feature. I would Google around if you think you see a bug first before reporting it, because a lot of times actually I've gone back on my bug report history and realized I was just being stupid, and most of the bugs I reported was just me not paying attention. There's also some tutorial videos under here of showing things like industry, exploration, crime watch, although there's some missing under here I believe, but it's CCP's standard videos for kind of how to do some basic functions. Okay, we have journals. Basically, it marks all of your character logs of things like what missions you accepted from agents, any expeditions you got, which are basically NPC escalations. You have a very rare chance of those happening, but those can be pretty lucrative. Any contract logs, planetary launches if you're into planetary industry, which I'll go over in my industry video. Epic arcs, those are, a lot of people suggest those. I never did any epic arcs, but a lot of people say that the Sisters of EvE epic arc is pretty good for a new player. You get lots of experience of how to fly a ship, and you get a free destroyer and frigate, I believe, for completing it. And there's also incursions, which is another form of NPC combats that a lot of older players do because it can make quite a bit of money. I'll also go over that in an NPE video. Here you have your wallet. Just hovering over it shows your current balance, which I have 40,000 ISK, which is the standard player starting. And starting off, you show my wallet, and then if you're in a corporation wallet. This character has no access to the corp wallet, but my main does, so I can take and remove ISK from various wallet divisions that my CEO gave me permission to access. So under my wallet, it shows any selling or buying orders I have currently open, which I have none. It shows all past transactions of both buying and selling, so you can see on the 9th of May I bought a shield power relay for a little over 1 million ISK, and I believe it shows like where the station is and what player even sold me the module, so it could be useful. The most one I use though is kind of the journal, which is kind of like that one, but it shows So yeah, a good one is also the journal. It doesn't show transactions that you when you buy stuff, but it shows like other transactions like market fees, player contract fees, or player donations. Like just before I started this video, I had about half a bill ISK on here. I just removed it all but the 40,000 for starting this video series. So you can see I transferred this to my main. So you can see records for that. You also see shares. Basically, corporations work like a real corporation. EvE, you have multiple shares, and people can be shareholders. And if the majority of shareholders want a new CEO, they can actually put up a vote based on the number of shares they have, and if they win, then the CEO is removed from the corp, and then they can vote in a new CEO. That is why most CEOs, when you start a corp, you take the majority shares and hold on to them. And I believe there's some way of making money off shares, but I have not researched that at all. Yeah, personal assets basically shows you everything you own in the game on this character. So it's very useful for finding items that you cannot find anymore. So this is basically, you can go by all items and shows you by system all your items you have. So like when Yuna, I got a clone soldier tag I left there, or Norvolaken 14 shows I have one item, I got an industrial ship there, so you can easily find things, and there's also like a search function. What was it? Search in station, so I can search for it. Like I know it has something like, I want to find a warp course or stabilizer, I got something Kurama and Masil. Which I have done this because sometimes I go through here and you can actually remotely delete stuff. So actually, our human view content. You can also view content. Oh, I got some minerals there. See, this is what happens. It's like Christmas. You find random stuff you didn't know you had. So actually, I got a decent amount of pile of minerals there. Okay, good. There's nothing in this container, so you can remotely view containers. So you can also remotely delete it by saying right-clicking and saying trash it. And then it'll take, usually it takes like a minute or two for this to update, but it seems like today is working better and updated immediately. So now I remotely delete that item. You can remotely sell items with the proper skills, but I do not have any of those skills actually on any of my characters, really. I don't use them too often. And yeah, on the personal assets, you can break it down by all items, by region, constellation, solar system. Okay, we got a few other things. Got a ship tree, which basically I haven't really used. I mainly just go through the market, but you can kind of see which ships you have or can fly, and basically gives you a quick overview of all the ships in the game. So you can see, start with the rookie ship, and then you get shuttles you have, which are pretty good for just moving around. And you have like all the T1 frigates and destroyers. And right here shows you your skill level right here. Like I have Caldari frigate up to level 3, so there's 3 marks on there. So pretty useful. Then you have your beta map, which is actually a new one CCP got. It actually looks pretty good. So if you go on here, you can have multiple ranges of resolution. So you can have either solar system resolution and actually all the way down to planetary resolution. So this is where I am currently. This is near the Kanaka Stargate. So you can see here, hover over here, you have multiple things. You have the station, which is marked by a square. You have here a circle with an arrow as a Stargate, which you use to jump to other systems. The circle here is a planet, so it's a Todaki Planet 6. And all these circles with the small circle is the moons around that planet. And finally, these are asteroid fields. So you can see here you have this central planet and a whole set of asteroid fields around it. And zoom out, you can zoom out to see the other planets and the central sun of Todaki. And if you keep zooming out, you can see the whole local planet. Like here's Kakela, which we were talking about earlier. We're probably going to go to get some modules. And you can zoom out further, and you can see this whole mass of systems right here. These two, this one, the Todaki, Kanaka, Eriko, and Arkanabas. They're all connected by solid lines, so that's a whole little constellation of stars. And you can see these dotted lines are constellation gates, which jump you to other constellations. So this one will jump you all the way up to Sobaski, which is in a different constellation. And you can keep zooming out further, and you can see this whole region, the Citadel. It's near where like Jita is. Actually, Jita's in the Forge, so that's actually next door in a different region. So you can see here actually some region connection gates right here. You can keep zooming out farther and farther, and you can see the entire game galaxy. Now this shows all the systems in the game with the exception of wormhole systems. Those do not show up on this map because they are never in static positions. So all of these red systems are nullsec. Basically, players can control those stations and systems and basically do whatever they want out there. It's lawless, there's no police, there's no Concord, which is the police that show up and destroy you if you attack a player illegally. So it's pretty much the Wildlands. And if you zoom in here, and I can make this, no I can't. And if you see here, you get these systems between nullsec and the center. You see the kind of orange colored. That is lowsec. Essentially, that is kind of the region between nullsec and highsec, and it's semi-lawless. So most pirates, like myself, prefer to live in those areas. You gotta learn the mechanics pretty good, but it can be pretty fun with frequent PvP fights, easy access to highsec and nullsec, so pretty fun zone. You can see here these yellow, green, blue systems, like the ones they are in right now, these are all highsec. They're protected by Concord, which is the faction force, which basically destroys everyone that tries to attack other players. Now, Concord is not a failsafe. I will repeat, highsec is not 100% safe. It is very safe. There's people in this game that will and can kill you in highsec. Granted, Concord will kill them back. It is required by the game mechanics to do so, but it may take some time for them to kill them. And by time, I mean within 5 to 20 seconds, depending on the system they're in. So you can be killed in highsec, but know that your enemy will suffer repercussions for that, along their sex status decreasing. So this is pretty good. I don't really use the in-game map. The old one is kind of really bad to use, but I prefer websites like Dotlin. It's very, very intuitive maps, and I prefer those, although I might start looking around at this map and playing around with it. I definitely like the look of this. It looks pretty nice with a 3D view. Okay, moving along. Industry tab we already looked at. Market, ship fittings we already did. Here's your in-game email, so you can email other players. So I was talking to some other players too. Old Corpse. Also your communication. These are basically like your notifications. Like we had a starbase that was under attack. Indicated that. Insurance notifications gives you all that. And actually I can delete all of these. Don't need those. People and places allows you to save contacts. Like I have my main contact, just set to blue. Killed with fire. I don't remember what this guy was, but I think he killed me or something. So I set him to red to warn myself. So yeah, indicate that he is dangerous. And a few others. Like this guy I set to neutral because I thought he was a combat pilot. Turns out he was just a Sino alt for moving freighter ships, so no threat. So I didn't really want to annoy him at all, so I just set him to neutral so I didn't really kill him. You can also see any agents you have discussed with in the past. I've discussed with both these agents in the past in this character, so that shows those logs. And shows places, so here shows all my personal locations and bookmarks I have saved in space. And also agent mission locations. And this allows you to also add a location. So if you're in space, I would add these for making bookmarks in space I can warp to. But I am not going to because I'm not in space. Inventory tab is basically where all of your items are stored. You have basically two main hangars. You have your ship hangar, which shows all of your ships that are basically being stored in the hangar. Right now I have my IBIS. And then you also have your item hangar, which is all of your items are stored in the game. So then you can click up here. This is your active ship that I have active right now because I am actually in my IBIS and not in my pod. And you click on your IBIS, it shows you the inventory of IBIS. It for CCP decided to give you 1 free titanium mineral. It's kind of a weird thing they did, but they give you that. And also on some ships you have additional bays, like the EvE has a drone bay, where you can store 1 small drone. Got 5 cubic meters of space. So that's pretty much the inventory. You'll use that a lot. Channels went in. You click on here, you get your character sheet. So you can see all your personal information. Like here, you can look up all the skills I have. Like for resource processing, I have mining to level 5, which is the highest you can have any one skill at. Shows my certificates I got. So like I have navigation up to, under navigation, I have the navigation skill up to level 1. It appears. It also shows your skill history. So it gives you the most recent skills you finished training. It shows you that. Shows you decoration and medals that you've been given by other corps. Attributes shows basically in EvE there are 5 attributes to your brain essentially for skill training. Each skill has a primary and secondary attribute to it. So I'm going to pull up Ram's skill. I'm going to look at the Caldari Frigate skill book. It'll give me some info on that. So you can see on here it says the primary attribute for this one is perception and the secondary is willpower. So if I wanted to train this skill the fastest, I would want to increase my points on perception and willpower, and I'll train that skill much faster. And I can see with how I have this character optimized, it would train it much slower, as those two are the lowest points I have. I optimize more on memory, intelligence, and charisma because I initially trained this character up for planetary interaction, which focuses on those ones more. Now, you do have opportunities. When you first create your character, everything's balanced, and you do have some opportunities to remap this, but you can only do so once every 6 months. Since I have, and every 6 months you have the opportunity to do a free remap. So if I want to, I can remap it now and reallocate some of these points. And those are the free ones. Then sometimes CCP also gives out free bonus remaps. Like I have 2 in storage. Those would be if I wanted to remap my brain anytime sooner than the 6 months, which I don't usually do. And you don't do this quite often. Even on my main, I only remapped it twice. And that was when I first started the game. I remapped it to optimize my core skill training. And then recently, I optimized it for ship training, so under the perception and willpower and intelligence, because that is what I'm focusing on now in training. I have most of my support skills out of the way. I'm just focusing on training hulls. Under here shows you any implants or boosters. Basically, you can add attributes to your mines. There's 2 different types of implants that you can use. I'll go into the market to show you some of those implants and boosters. So yeah, there's 2 main types. There's attribute enhancers and skill hardwiring. So the attribute enhancers are essentially like what we're just looking at with the brain remaps. You can add in various things to increase the number of points you have on your attributes. Look, see the ocular filter improved. These are quite expensive because they're pretty powerful. They're a little over 100 million ISK each. Go under here, it adds 5 points to your perception attributes. So this would increase your perception to now 22 points, so it's pretty good. My main, I got a nearly full set of the +4s because I didn't really want to get into it too much because those aren't too bad. They're only about 20 mil each for the +4s. That's a new player. Which one was it? You could try getting some of the limited ones. They're pretty cheap, as you can see. They only add +1 to your skill attribute. But they're pretty good. I mean, right now I could buy one of them with just a little bit of ISK I have. Or if you wanted to, once you get a little bit of money. Actually, I wouldn't even do that as a new player, because you may lose your pod. Because when you lose your pod, that clone is now destroyed along with all implants that you had in it. So you can lose them quite easily. There's also some types, like the General Illusion, Core Augmentation, or like these faction ones like Snake, where it gives you not only like a primary effect bonus to your attributes, it also gives you secondary effects, like this one gives better ship agility and armor hit points, and if you get a full set of all 5, you'll get a 20% bonus to strength of all of these effects, and these can be quite expensive. Now for the skill hardwiring, these improve essentially your skill abilities, like say under gunnery implants. And there's also only specific slots you can have implants in, so you have to really sit there and choose which slot goes in what for the skill hardwiring implants. So all these, like the armor implants, there's some for slot 6, but also for gunnery there's some implants for the same slot, so you have to pick and choose which one you want. So like here, if I go in slot 8, there's multiple ones. These ones for this slot are hybrid energy and projectile turrets, and these increase the damage of them. You can see like this one, cheap one for medium projectile turrets, it increases all damage of projectile turrets that are medium size by 1%. And it's only 2 mil, so it's not too expensive. I usually throw in a cheap set of these for my PvP clone to add just a little bit of an edge to it. And also, I'll go through it more in my PvP video, but also it showed under here boosters. Those are essentially space drugs where you can inject them and improve various characteristics of your character, such as the drop increases, not the drop, exile increases the amount of armor that gets repaired, and I believe blue pill was also kind of the same except for shields. So I'll go over that in my PvP video. Shows you all active jump clones you have and if you are available to jump. Says I can jump, but I don't have any on this alt. My biography that I don't have anything in. Employment history. Standings with various factions. So with this corporation, I have a standing of 0.1, which is pretty good. I ground a little bit of standings from this agent, so it increases your standing with them. Shows you your security status and any changes from it, like if you lose any or gain any, it'll indicate here. In the recent history, it's been way too long since I've used this character for combat, so nothing is logged. Any kill rights on you, essentially kill rights is given to players who die at the hands of people who kill them illegally. So if like you got ganked in high sec illegally, I would get a kill right, and if I wanted to, I would go onto the same grid area as the other player that I had the kill right on. I can activate it, and they go suspect for 15 minutes. So basically that means I can freely attack them for 15 minutes, and then once I engage, it'll be stating that way I can keep killing them until I either die or kill them, because they can also fight back once they go suspect and I engage them. So I also have to plan that. Also my combat log, so it shows all losses. Like here, I lost a Terra a long time ago. I think this is no, this isn't a wormhole. I lost it to a stealth bomber. That was bad of me. It shows like how much you lost. I lost 72 mil. I was hauling some POS equipment and a bunch of supplies and a bunch of fuel. And then you can also show kills. I think I've only got 1 kill on this character. It's a pod that I killed on a fleet. That's funny. You can see I killed this person. Killed on behalf. Yeah, I just ended up just getting their pod. Oh, this isn't the Dixie. I don't even know what I did with this one, actually. Well, I killed someone apparently. Pilot's license basically allows you to buy and sell Plex, which is an item that you can buy with real-world money, and you can either use it in-game to expand your playtime by 30 days, which isn't exactly monetarily a good idea. You'd be rather buying Plex, or you'd rather buy time directly, but you can use it if you get it in-game, so technically you don't even have to pay for the game. You can just grind ice in the game, buy a Plex, and renew it for a date on game time, but don't really try to achieve that as a new player. You're going to find yourself working a second job and quit. Because do the math, you'll most likely make more an hour of your real job than you would grinding in this game. But there are some players that have well-established markets that they can actually do this quite easily with very little effort, so at that point it is worth it. The other reason for buying Plex for real money is that you can sell it in-game for real money. And it's a free market, so Plex prices fluctuate. When I first started playing this game about 3 years ago, the Plex price was about 200 million ISK you could get for selling it. Now you can sell it for about 1 billion ISK. So a lot of people play around the markets and deal with those. Under here it shows you skins. Basically, it's extras on your ship. You can get extra graphics like here. It's an Everest, and this is a Galenti Titan, and you can get various skins for it. So basically, it's added graphics on top of it. I kind of a money sink for CCP. Like, I don't really like the idea of it, but there is one ship I bought a skin for. It's a Galente ship. It's the Federation Navy Comet. It's a pretty strong ship, and before the skins came out, they had this ship called the Police Navy Comet. It's essentially the same ship, but with basically like a police skin with flashing like police lights. It kind of looks pretty cool. And then when they brought out the skins, they replaced the full ship with a skin you can just apply to a normal Navy Comet. So I like that one. That's about the only one I really bought. And yes, and up on the top here, this is your Neocom menu. This gives you access to everything else, like settings, opportunities, which is kind of like a new player intro to the game. It's kind of a replacement of the career agents line. It's relatively new. I have never completed it, because it did not exist when I started this game. I had to learn much more cold turkey than people get it now. So I'd definitely check out these opportunities maps for missions, and you can definitely get stuff back from them, and it teaches you various aspects of the game. Use this compare tool to compare various ships and items to see, like, compare stats between them. New Eden Store, basically you can buy apparel for your character and cosmetic ship upgrades, so it's kind of like a real money store. You can buy extra stuff that doesn't really have any significant impact on the player in the game, so this is definitely not a pay-to-win game. Well, trust me. Gives you access to actually the old map, apparently. I didn't know where to find this. Pretty 2D-ish map, so that's why it kind of replaces with the new one. I'm going to... how do I close map right now? Then you have multiple tabs under social. You have other things. You have Twitch connection and your corporation info. Business, you have contracts, which contracts is another way to buy some games that are not allowed to be placed on the market. Like, some officer mod, all officer mods, which are basically some of the most powerful modules in the game, are not able to be sold on the market. You have to sell them through contracts, and basically you can sell these specifically to other players or create courier contracts, which are essentially like transport contracts. Like, it's kind of like having modern truck drivers. Like, you put up money saying, I want this ship from A to B, I'll pay you this much, and the person will take it and move it for you for the cost. And you can also do auctions through there too. Planetary colonies for planetary industry. I'll go over that in my industry video. Structured browser, this is new. Seems like it shows the structure at what services it has. I don't know the purpose for this, because you can access this in other ways. Accessories, you have browser bookmarks. There's actually a full in-game web browser here, so you can see talking earlier about .lin maps. So this is one I have the Lone Trek region. So you can see here. You can see you got like Jita, the Forge. Yeah, this is pretty much both Lone Trek and the Forge appears. Actually, no, just Lone Trek. So you can see each of these systems. This one's circle in blue or ice belt system, so you can mine ice. So if I want to go look at Mara, you see the stats on the system, like how many people jumped in there, how many NPCs have been killed, or other players have been killed. You can see full stats on the system. So this is one of the most biggest assets of the game you'll ever have. And that's another way to access the browser. There's an in-game calculator, notepads, you can take notes. Logs and messages is pretty useful, so you can see like damage logs or logs of jumping. The devs definitely use these for trying to figure out errors with you if you put in like bug reports. So these are also good too, to look through and see what people attack you with, or what type of weapons. And then under inventory, you have some open market deliveries, so mainly for corpse. But outside you have redeem items. Now, if you like buy an item with real money, like let's say a Plex, you'll have it either in your startup window where you have all your characters. It'll allow you to drag the item into one of the characters and it'll drop it in the station they're at. Or if you're out of space, it'll drop in your ship, which is a really bad idea for Plex. but you can also do it through here. So I don't have any items I can redeem, but I can click on them and redeem it without logging out and logging back in. And there's one setting, so if you go into here, you have all of your various settings, graphics, you probably know what to do with. There's this one under general settings you should set. Yeah, there's this one you should set. Now, by default, this, I believe, was set to one target to auto-target back. I do not know why they had this set as default unless it changed in the last 3 years, but basically if you get targeted by another player, this automatically targets them back for some reason. It doesn't engage them, so you don't have to worry about getting killed by the police or anything like that, but it just is a source for errors. Like, it's just a whole bad idea. Just set this to 0 targets unless you have a specific situation where you want that. I'd always leave that to 0. That is pretty much the only setting I would really press. The rest of them are kind of general preferences, audio chats, all that thing. You can also add keyboard shortcuts in here too, so it's really useful for players. I don't use too many shortcuts. I'm trying to learn it more for combat because it can be much faster with combat and make much more better decisions much quicker, so I'm starting to try to do that. And yeah, I believe that wraps up this video of everything in the station. And my next video, I will briefly go over modules, just basic fitting guides, and we'll undock, and I'll teach you how to maneuver your ship around in space. So, I'll see you next time.